Here.
Commissioner Ron,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hahn,
Here.
Mayor Tanner. Here. Thank you. With that, before we start our presentation, the commission would like to come with me down to the podium with Brett.
Okay. I asked Jim Lavity to be here because I thought I had a special presentation today. He didn't know that it was him. Let me tell you something about Jim. And this year, Jim, this July will be 10 years that I've worked for IRB, and it's not a great losing here back here. But, you were on the commission when I was hired, and I saw it. Jim's always just been committed to the city, involved in all kinds of volunteer organizations, and served on the commission. And then when he got the commission, and this is kind of unheard of, he turned around and volunteered to go back on the board of adjustment. And I wondered about you, Jim, when you did that, because most of the time people get off, they're done. But as the city manager, it's nice to dealt with all the elected officials, but particularly in your role as a city commissioner and on the board of adjustment. And he just stepped down on the board, that's why we're doing what we're doing. I just wanted to publicly thank you for that, and we appreciate all your service and cookies, guys.
Somewhere it says making a difference, and this is in sincere appreciation to James Lavity. The City of Indian Rock speech acknowledge your commitment and dedication by serving on various boards, including City Commission from 2012 to 2016. Thank you. This is the commission.
What a surprise. It all starts back when I was a child. My parents brought me, you're gonna have to listen. My parents brought me back. I brought all of us 7 children to Indian Rocks Beach. And it's ironic, 40 years ago, that a bunch of friends, we all came and started staying at Indian Rocks Beach. And then 20 years ago, my wife and I finally bought the place that we were all staying at and have run a business there. Businesses brought good for the community, it's brought good for me, and it gave me an insight of how the government works in this little town, how wonderful it is, and the people that are here that are wonderful. And so I've always been thankful that the good Lord put me in Indian Rocks Beach, and I was able to open my eyes and see which way to go every day. So for that, thank you. Thank you all.
Normally we do the presentation by the sheriff, or we have a draft agenda. So with that, but I would like to say that when they're here, that you come 15 minutes before the meeting, that you are more than welcome to speak to them privately. With that, we'll move on to the report of Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue.
Good evening, Commission. Thanks for having me. Chief Davidson is once again representing the Fire District at the annual Florida Association of Special Districts Convention in Orlando. So he has asked that I come speak to you folks today. I'm not sure his last reports are, but we've decided to provide a little bit more detail to you guys. So with that being said, in May, our men and women of the fire department have a combined total of 1,147 hours of training that they've put in. And again, we record all this stuff. It goes towards our ISO rating for you folks as taxpayers and we have to do so many hours a year, every firefighter does. They've also completed 157.5 hours of medical training, and from this month to the end of the year, all of our paramedics will be recertifying in ACLS, which is Advanced Cardiac Life Support, which is all the medical stuff that we do when we treat heart attacks and strokes and all that type of stuff. So that's going on to the end of the year. We do that every 2 years. So combined total for training in May, 1,304.5 hours approximately that your folks have spent training grounds, doing stuff in the station, and our medical training. As far as my wheelhouse is concerned in fire prevention, this encompasses, as of tomorrow, I believe, we'll be about 99% done with all annual fire inspections within the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District, and Indian Rocks Beach was the last. So some of you are property owners and managers. You might have spoken with me or one of my inspectors. You see them out and about. So we are finishing that up. In the month of May, we did 160 annual inspections, 284 re-inspections, and we have about 650 to 700 inspections that we do every year. In Indian Rocks, I did one plan review and approved one set of plans for honestly, I can't remember. There's a little bit of construction going on, as you guys know, but also I review plans for fire alarms and upgrades and all that sort of thing. In May also, we had 7 life safety contacts, which I track as well. That's school-age children when we teach them fire prevention stuff, their basic stop, drop, and roll, they come visit the station, give tours, stuff like that. And a bunch of their family members, and now it's the time that there's lots of tours here, so I've talked to more as well. This was not in May, but this just happened recently, and your Fine City was stamped on it on June 8th. We had the Water Safety and Hurricane Expo down in Bel Air Beach. They hosted it this year. We're hoping that your Fine City will host it next year. I'd like to move the site in between all of our fire districts, and we hope to have it as soon as possible, so that's something we can work on. We had a lot better attendance. I'm not really an event planner, but we did pretty well. We probably had about 50 folks. We gave out 3 life vests. We had representatives from waste management, several departments of Pinellas County, including emergency management, the sheriff's office. We did a fireboat demo, which was great. If any of you follow us on Facebook, we posted some pictures up there. So that was a great event. Again, it was planning that type of stuff was new to me, but we just got to get the attendance up. So we learned a few lessons this year. We look forward to making it even better this year. That we prepare everybody. You're always going to hope for the best and plan for the worst. And Bain Design was one of the attendees. And up on the front table, there's a little pamphlet that up there that you guys are welcome to take and leave. That was great. In Indian Rocks Beach, last month as far as calls, we had 4 water rescues, 2 structure fire responses, 66 medical calls, 1 vehicle crash, 1 trauma alert, 2 outside fires, 3 citizen assist, 3 elevator rescues, 3 fire alarms, and unfortunately we had, you might have heard of, we had 1 drowning and 1 cardiac arrest that occurred in the northern part of the city. Lastly, tomorrow is Flag Day, June 14th. Myself and you folks again, the City of Indian Rocks Beach is graciously a partner in Rotary, and I'm again emceeing a Flag Day ceremony that takes place at 11 a.m. at Chickasee Park. We'd love to have you guys out there. I lined up a fantastic speaker friend who is in the Navy. He's pretty high up. He's a captain. We're going to do a flag folding demonstration, celebrating our veterans, and also the local VFW over the bridge on Walsingham is going to be doing a demonstration of a flag retirement. And your wonderful mayor, I know, will be in attendance tomorrow. Look forward to it. So if you folks have a few minutes, we'd love to see you out there. We're going to serve some, I believe, some hot dogs and So there's the waters at the end too, so probably 45 minutes maximum time just before lunch. So thanks again for your time, and you guys have a great rest of the meeting.
Does anyone have any questions?
Just real quick, for the flag day tomorrow, we do accept old flags every time?
Yes, you can bring them. So just coincidentally, if you guys ever have any old flags, and if you are BF, you can always drop them at BFW. We are also a spot, a collection spot as well. You can get a hold of me if you guys call me up and you leave here. I can pick up for you guys, or you can drop them at the station.
And I believe we're the only flag ceremony in Pinellas County that I'm aware of, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a nice.
It is. I think it's a great event, and again, I'm taking over our retired Chief Walker, who is another pillar of this community. So I'm happy to do that. It's a great thing for our veterans. I know we have a lot of veterans in the area, and I look forward to it. You guys are so gracious every year to host that.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to public comment. 3-minute time limit for every speaker. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name, address, and state any comment or concern that they may have regarding any matter over which the city commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the city commission shall be made to the city commission as a whole, not directed to any individual city commission member. No personal or slanderous remarks shall be made. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall occur between the speaker and the city commission. At this time, is there anyone who would like to come forward? Hi, Bill.
We're over 112, 13th Ave. First of all, I don't know if the nature preserve, anybody's been there, has seen the new one section they redid, and did you go look at it, Greg? Yeah, I mean, I was there when they were, the doctor doing it. Unbelievable. I hope we're gonna continue to do the rest of the walkway. They put in like a fencing product there that is just, you can see everything through, it's fantastic, and it looks beautiful. Excuse me, I'd recommend you guys take a walk out there and take a look at it. The other thing is, now I know budget's coming up, and the shower at 13th or 12th Avenue is still flooding. I know they tried to fix it about 7, 8 years ago, and it's still, the water drains into the parking lot, and people have to step into the bushes to get around it on a day when it's used a lot. So most weekends, there's a big puddle there still coming into the parking lot.
That was 12?
Well, yes. And the third thing, I was here probably about 17 years ago to bring this problem up, and it got resolved very quickly. But it happened once again. We do not have a merry-go-round for grandchildren to blame. I don't know why it was taken out. I noticed it when the grandkids were here a couple weeks ago, and it was like, let's go to the park, and usually that's one of the main things. I don't know why we haven't replaced it, or if we can replace it. Like I said, I know budget's coming up, so please put the merry-go-round in.
Thanks. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time? Jerry?
We're also polite. Jerry Newton, 438 Harbor Drive North. Just a couple of things I want to bring up tonight. I'm not sure that we're hearing all of the police reports. I can't certainly comment about maybe one or other. Well, there was a pretty major incident on 6th Avenue a couple of months ago that involved a short-term rental DUI, if I'm not mistaken, racing down 6th Avenue, blowing through a stop sign, knocking down a light pole. The power was out in the whole neighborhood for a period of time, quite a long period of time. And we were here at the meeting after that. There was no mention of that, so I would think that would be a pretty big deal. Another thing, I know fees are going to be mentioned tonight, but I just want to make a statement. Not one penny of the administrative fees of short-term rental should be falling on the citizens. And and you all know that as well as I. Is it possible for the city to fund a legal challenge regarding the events that led up to losing our grandfather status? I would think there seems to be some credibility there that we might have some ground to stand on. The sequence of events, if you look at it very closely, you know, more restrictive, less restrictive, making a correction on maybe some potential errors in recording or whatever. There does seem to be some possibility there that we might be able to dig into that and, as we call, claw our way back to something that would make more sense for our citizens. Anyway, I would think that would be worth an investment of the city to, at the pleasure of the citizens, to look into that. I don't understand why it wouldn't be an important topic. And that's about it for me. I know to represent John Fansdale, he's not here tonight, unable to attend, but he submitted some pretty good documentation as to suggestions of different directions that we might take. I know you all got a copy of that. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment?
That's 21 and 4 Beach Road. This was not my 2 minutes. I had like 8 pages I was going through. I had several people that were near 3 minutes, and we got here early to talk to Randy about that. But it's just boiled down to the fiduciary responsibility of the city commission. But that's the here. I think that there are people in the city that really love the city that don't have to be in your home. Okay? We really love the city. We do everything for it. Okay? We're some of the ones that fight the hardest for each nursery. Just realize that the last conversation I had with Jim Larry, he's in my staff. He served the city well, served with the city commission, and he served as president. But the last conversation I had with him, he called me a selfish fucking asshole about sacrifice. Y'all can embrace that. I can't. 60% of the people on the beach are now SFAs. Y'all have to realize that we care about the beach as much as anyone else. But if your side is going to call us SFAs, you have to realize that we take it personally. Please, let's start communicating. I will say, as it comes to beach nourishment, I'm very happy to say that 3 of the commissioners have reached out to learn more about what we're talking about. Not any names or anything, but I hope it works out. I hope that we get something done. I hope that it was about 3 minutes myself, but I just want to say I'm happy that we're starting to communicate. At least I hope we're starting. Please stop with something like this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment at this time? Hearing none, close public comment, and we will move on to reports of the city clerk.
No report, Madam Mayor.
We'll move on to the city manager.
Thanks. I'd like to invite Mark Porter to come up. Mark is with Utility Consultants in Florida. They are our engineering firm that's managing the government bar underground phase 2. And he's going to give an additional report. Why do that? I'm going to hand out the one that
All right, perfect. Thank you, Greg. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for having me. I'll try to keep it real brief. So just jotted down some notes, so I won't go verbatim to it, but we made really good progress with Duke's designers. So what we've done to align with the actual allocation that comes in each year and to align with the fiscal, we're getting from the Pinellas, penny for Pinellas through the county. We we broke the project up into 3 phases. So the first one's 5th to 8th, second phase is 8th to 12th, and then 12th to 15th. So the designs for phase 1 and 2 are now 100% complete from Duke. So we made a lot of progress since the last time we heard of that. Spectrum's design is being finalized this month, and Frontier, they're not gonna have a full-blown design, because they have very limited involvement, so that's a positive thing. What we want to try to do is focus on Spectrum, being ahead of the Duke work, so that when we get ready to wreck out the facilities, all the carriers are stripped off the pole, so we'll be able to focus on that. Payments to the utility owners, so we just got the first one from Duke for BC, so again, what they've done is they broke the BC ups in phase 1, 2, and 3. We got phase 1, the city's already submitted that payment. Once they get that payment, then they're able to release the materials, but we got to work through a couple of easement issues with that, so we're making good progress. The other phase is phase 2 and 3. We've asked them to rerun the numbers because we feel like there might be some downward pressure on some inflation that we saw in the first one. They've agreed every month to rerun those numbers, and we have seen some downward trends in those even in some other beaches. Easements, right now the focus is just in the first phase from 5th to 8th. We have 9 total. We have 5 consents on those. We also were asking, I think there's 2, maybe 3 locations where we have enough right of way within the city limits. Just go ahead and put them in occupy them rather than get an easement from someone. So we're working with Duke for that now. Materials, we've, like I said, once Marion now, once they get receipt of the payment and it clears, we'll go ahead and start the materials. They have emphasized that there's a long lead time on that. However, the first phase of the project is installing all of the conduit, the major infrastructure. The long lead times on that aren't as much as there on some of the wire and some of the equipment. So what we'll do is we'll start installing all the conduit when we get receipt of that this summer. And then as that other stuff comes in, the Duke can come behind that operation. Construction, we're pretty much ready to go. What we're waiting for is the materials. So hopefully we'll have those in the coming month or so. And then the Pinellas County permit, we've actually already finalized the design on that to get that submission in. We probably will get a response from them, I would imagine, by the end of the month or the first part of July. So we'll have the permit. If worst case scenario, something gets stalled with Pinellas County on the permit, what we'll do is we'll start the work on the side streets, and we can start on that and while we're waiting for Pinellas, because we want to kind of keep things moving as much as possible. And of course, we wanted to emphasize before any work begins, we're going to be adamantly working with the city staff, team, and everybody, and then the residents and businesses, so they know exactly when, what will take place, and how long. We want to make sure that we make this a seamless operation, and we're mindful of their operation. So before anything starts, we'll make sure that we do that. And then next steps are really just kind of concurrently what we want to try to do is your next fiscal year, when you get the next amount of money from the county, we'll already have the survey done, get working on the permit for phase 2. So hopefully, now that we got that design from Duke for the phase 2, we can keep that so that hopefully we can just keep going in construction and have a gap like we've had. And then the last thing that we want to do is try to finalize the phase 3 design from Duke. So that's from the, like I said, 12 to 15 streets. We'll narrow that down to 90 months.
So I'm glad you came, because I said to Greg this morning, I said, you can do an update on the underground of the utilities, because I think everybody would like to know where it's at. So I'm so happy that you're here. So tentatively, there are no dates yet that we're starting until the rest of the engineering is that correct?
So the engineering for the first phase from 5th to 8th, we got all that worked out in the last couple of months. So we're ready to go. The permits in, so we just have to wait for approval. The problem now is we're just waiting for the materials and a couple of easements. So there's a curative on, I think, to the easement. That's the whole right now. So we're just trying to resolve that issue. Once we get that, we should have all of them. Like I said, all the consents are in. 2 will go in, 2 or 3 go in the city right away, and the other 2 are just in curative. Thank you guys.
Thank you. It's a great mindset of life. I'm about 30 days ahead. The market is probably really doing a great job. I think it's real good. So we're thankful. You will quickly tell that my list is in no particular order of certain things going on. Diana Hurd is an employee that probably a lot of y'all met that work at the front counter of City Hall for many years. We found out that previously that she passed, so it's more probably knowledge for service, and I'm asking. Proof of that. hired new chairs, they paid for half the cost. It's an oversized postcard that went through the beach on post, and people would come and visit the beach and stand by it and take their pictures. So that was one of the latest kind of artsy things that we did, know we doing that next week. Code enforcement, for May, there were 122 parking citations written. That does not include the citations written on the sheriff's office. There were 29 violations sent out, 12 notices to appear, and between Mike and Frank, there were 12 short-term rental inspections. We continue to work on the forms and the process to implement the new short-term rental ordinance. First section, 18.204, the start date of the registration has been adjusted to August 1st, and the forms will be published to the public on or before July 14th. And we'll post all that online, and the forms, when we put that out, will be online. We'll also email the approximately 400 vacation rentals that are registered with us to make them aware that the new ordinance is being implemented. We'll go from there. I want to thank the friends of the City of New Rock Beach Library for partnering with the city. We just replaced all the computers in the library. Thank you for having that. We appreciate that. We ordered a bucket truck, believe it or not, in 2021. We got it last week. An old truck will get rid of it. We ordered a garbage truck in October of 21, and we'll receive it next month. So that's a supply chain issue. So we're replacing some equipment we need to replace. We're actively working on the proposed 23-24 budget. We'll release it to the commission and the public for all the deadlines. July 7th, probably a week out. Be released a week early. After it's released, the finance director and I will set a meeting with each of the commissioners to go over the proposed budget before the work session is scheduled for July 25th. On July 17th, the city will host a blow drive from City Hall on Saturday, July 30th. And then the last thing that I would have is, we need to have a serious conversation about this, is the wind hurricanes. I had the opportunity after the major hurricane that we experienced, unfortunately, it went south of us, went to Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach. Cookie actually went to the creek in Fort Myers Beach. But hurricane season began on June 1st, and the way out of this, it ends when it wants to. We've had storms and things on the Gulf, particularly through December. And I would encourage everyone to take protective measures now. Re-entry hang tags are available at City Hall. Due to team assignments for the tropical storms and hurricanes, re-entry tags may not be available right before storm. A couple of y'all came and volunteered up until the hours before the storm was coming. We had people lined up to go to City Hall and get re-entry tags. I would encourage the public to get those now, because depending on what we're dealing with, we may not have an opportunity to be there as long as we did last time. There's additional information about hurricanes and resources on the city's website. We have a link that's linked to Pinellas County that has a lot of really good information about hurricanes. And I would just emphasize again, it's up to each resident and property owner to take protective measures. One thing I just want to illustrate is the highest elevation in IRB is 9 feet. Most areas in IRB are 6 feet or less. The floor of this auditorium is about 6 feet. When the major hurricane hit south of us, they had storm surge routinely, and particularly in Sanibel, 15 feet. And what I want to bring to your attention is the base floor elevation of the floor that we're running in is 6 feet. Add 9 above that. So if you look on the wall with a piece of blue tape on it, that's how deep the water would have been. If we take a hit, Sanibel and Fort Myers State. So I say that for the newcomers and for the people that have lived here for a long time. We got a lot of people that are really brave and want to ride out. We get that kind of water, just leave your next of kin's phone number and name, because that's what we're going to be doing with. So I honestly want to emphasize described the building as being severely damaged, that means washed out, where the water goes all the way through the building and out, and back out, and back out the backside. And one last thing on the inside about that is, the way storm sewers work, and the way it worked down there, it came in, got to most places 15 feet, and it sat there for hours. And then hours later, I got, so it's like being in a washing machine. It comes in, sits, tears up, and it comes in, and it tears up, and it leaves. And that's very serious. So we'll continually remind the public about hurricane season and the information on the website. And I would just encourage people that are here, people who watch the video later, to take precautions now. Don't rely on the city. The last thing I'll say about preparations. There's a myth behind sandbags. There's a huge sandbag party that goes on in front of City Hall. Those will rarely ever help. If we have those kind of storm surges, you just wasted your time. And the fact of the matter is, most people don't even really how to use them for what they're for. They're not made for storms. We will continue to provide sand and sandbags, but there's probably better use of people's time to do that, because the water gets to that level. All those hours you spent fill up sandbags and you put stuff in the back of the hall, you're probably better off doing that. So it's a serious topic. I hate to be heavy down there, but we need to talk about it. And it's sometimes important to show things visually. And if you stay in a one-story house and you have that kind of water coming in, you're not surviving. That's all I have.
Thank you, Greg. Does anyone have any questions for Greg at this point? I'm in one of my classes this semester at college is emergency management. And so they made us make a list of things because it is hurricane season, like make sure you have extra water, toiletries, canned goods, a list of things that you'll need when you have to leave the island. As Greg said, your pass to get back on, and just all of those things to be prepared. That's all we're asking at this time. Okay, with that, we'll start with our vice mayor, Suzanne. Do you have any comments there? Commissioner Lennon?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to, kind of revisit some of the things for a letter that came to us regarding, seeking advice for a legal team to research backing our IRB grandfathered status, put that up for consideration. I don't know the process, so I'm going to ask for your direction.
Basically, you can, as a commissioner, you can ask for us to put on the agenda. If you have any comments about that. Then I'm going to ask for consensus. Is there a consensus for the commission? Sure. Follow up on that? Yeah. The answer can be like that.
I'll give a third on
Jude? That's fine. In the future, we could put it on the, just, that we could have a summary, and if any commissioners have any questions that they'd like to bring up. And it might also be a good idea to meet prior, so you have a little background. So then, now I would say that all the commissioners. Yes, Jude?
I forgot to sit down minutes. I did want to bring up the issue of voter rights. Look at.
Is there a consensus from the commission to political rights,
On the beach.
Yes.
Yes.
I think there's we had a discussion on the golf cart change, right, from Tallahassee. Maybe
Yeah.
go ahead and same.
Our wonderful legislator, Tallahassee, has changed the rules about golf carts, so another.
And are you in agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On which, ship on boats.
Yeah, or second.
That's from
Would it be okay to do those together, Greg?
We'll figure it out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I say one thing on
Yes,
that?
you may.
Because I will tell you, on all I've been waiting for at the July meeting, a work session, until back from Page Parking and Beach. So that's probably gonna take some time. I'll give up the one that first with the land on the, it's primarily related to work. We'll get our heads together, figure out the time and all that.
And again, on that, I would like to with the city attorney, all the prior, so that I understand. Okay. With that,
Yes, I was one of the commissioners that reached out to Don House concerning the beach recreational program. I think it's something that we need to address as a city commission. We need to do everything possible to make our voice heard and understand it. I know that we've got a lot of politicians like Linda that are helping us with this or addressing it. And I don't know if we form a work session to try and understand what we can do to address this. Or actually meet, one of my plans is to meet with a few people that have actively addressed this issue along with Don House to see what we can do now to uncover. I know he's not here anymore. But I think it's something that we do need to kind of follow up. It's going to affect our economy. It's going to affect our beaches. It's going to affect the environment as well. So I guess I would ask for a consensus on explorations and what we can do to address beach recursion.
well, first I'm going to say, you're well aware that the county, pays 20% of the funding.
Yes.
And the chair and myself and the group went to Washington. We were the ones who informed Representative Lula
Yes.
of the issue. She was very gracious and is helping us. The county is well aware. They have reached out to the board. We are trying to get a meeting with the board. And, I personally, I think that we're at a different level or a different place, where we're working on it, I don't think the reference that we're not all working together is true, not true.
And I didn't mean it that way.
Okay,
Please forgive me if you took it that way. I know that you were the one that went that road. You've been instrumental in gaining the force with the Nellis County Commission, with Luna, and all that. I think what I was trying to do was find ways to think outside the box and address this. And I'm kind of at a loss.
Can I speak freely?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You're not the one to say this.
No, I know, but I'm trying to, I want to be quiet about this. If anyone's told that there's not been every effort made to secure sand for not our beach, but the safety project is, pretty much safety. This is not true. I don't really have time to do it right now because, put together budgets and make sure we're on ordinance and other things. But we've had city forums here. We've had multiple resolutions or authorizations from the city commission to send letters to everybody, the governor, both U.S. senators, the Corps. Could send a letter a year ago or sometime back to the president of the United States. But I've worked in local government for 40 plus years, and here's the bottom line. The Corps of Engineers is a separate federal bureaucratic policy that's run like the military. They have a person who's a general over the Corps. They under some general guides from Congress, they set their own rules. When Cookie went to DC, and I'll admit it, I forgot those videos, they picked said, I'm going to the White House. That's all we knew there, or else she wanted to go to the city. And she walked right in the White House and has a meeting with the person who's now, I think, the campaign manager for Joe Biden, or is involved in Joe Biden's campaign. That's how she went to the very top level of the United States government to try to get Dallas County sand. And I didn't, guys realize that I didn't think she meant that other voice. I've been in other cities where I've worked. I've been lobbying for other cities that I work for. I've been to the White House 3 times. I never made it in the White House. I made it in the old executive building since you've been there. So this whole myth of nobody's doing anything, my God, Dallas County has spent thousands of hours beating down every door, presenting the big city has done resolutions and letters and whatever. You are dealing with a federal bureaucracy that's controlled by the President of the United States of America, and that's what we're dealing with. And it's just disingenuous, I want to say something else, but I'm not going to use that word. It's disingenuous to say that there's not been every effort made. And there's still a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. One thing I was going to also suggest could be is that maybe it's a point where we do need to send back around a Sunday or all, but this whole ego thing of we got to talk with me to get this fixed. People that are hired at all different levels, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about people that are engineers, people who work for consultants, the county's lobbyists, that does everybody in the DC. People are actively working on this. And one person or a handful of people are going to come up and say, we're not directly involved, this is why it's not getting fixed. That's just ridiculous. That is not reality. That is not the real world. So I know the county is working on some things. And then two, I want to address this because this has been brought up over and over again. I'll say it quietly and listen to it. Is it, oh, y'all waited, you didn't do any waiting. BS. The city was hand in hand with the county, and this started years ago. And then when the county realized they were bogged down with the full word, every city on the beach got involved in that. It was a routine thing, the big city meetings, and it's discussed here over and over again. So I'm frustrated with it, and I'm not even a lead person in this. You know, I've been involved a few times. I know a few people in this city, I know a lot of people in there, and I do. But that's the real world that you're dealing with. Is if you want to try to make any impact, and I don't know if this will do good, you're better off asking your friends, business associates, or anybody, you know, if they know anybody in DC that has connections, and try to apply pressure that way. Because, you know, we can have another meeting and talk about it, and nothing's going to come from that. Because the people that have the ability, the technical people, Kelly Levy, and I know a certain group that like Kelly Levy. Kelly Levy is the most awesome, educated person you'll ever meet dealing with the topic we're talking about. And she has worked non-stop on this and continues to try to go to every channel that she can to resolve this. So ultimately, y'all can call us today. Y'all can have forums, you can have another public meeting, but that is where the problem is with the Corps of Engineers. And the Corps doesn't like good things, that's what that quick doesn't come out. The Corps of Engineers does a lot of good things, but I'm just telling you that that's at the federal level, and that's what we're doing with. So you meet and talk and do all that. The experts are good with really know what's going on. Other than the, you know, people that, a person that may say that I know more because I live on the beach, well then we should just have a meeting and invite everybody that lives on the beach up and down the west coast of Florida, that maybe they can, you know, be the experts to solve this. But I'm just telling y'all, all due respect, that anybody has an opinion about this, that's where it's stuck. I know there's another effort being made right now with somebody in DC that's over all these people, and supposedly they're going to comment that, you know, I can change that phone, because there are people working on that. eventually, but we're gonna burn hours. People that still have not signed the easements are not gonna sign the easements, and we're still not anywhere. We're not ready to move forward. So I know you all frustrated as your manager, it's like it's not as directly bothering us, but I've heard this for months. I heard the story of y'all not doing anything, the city's not involved in it. The city's been fully engaged in multiple. What's for you, Bob? And the city's still engaged. The city's been a critical important we're doing this. And it's all disrespectful. I mean, it's just like, we just go out and tell something that's not true. Everybody's opinion is important. Everybody's ideas are really important. You can spin this, you can have a 5-hour meeting, but the bottom line is, this is something that the core, unless the core is convinced somehow by some power than us, we're not getting sand, because they are stuck on these easements, and I don't see that changing unless the head guy that, I can't think of his name right now. Unless that one guy gives a directive to the people in the field office to change this, it's not going to change us. But we can have all the meetings that want.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we need the Corps? I mean, the Corps obviously hires vendors to do this. Do we need the Corps?
Anytime you do a project on a public waterway, or a public beach, they have to be involved in it.
Okay.
So even if you get funding from, just say the state,
Yep.
they still have to issue permits to do all that. And they're not gonna roll with that. They're not gonna roll with that. I told Vicky last night, I told Vicky, I won't name the city, but where Michelle and I met before I took this job 10 years ago, we're doing a beach now, and my wife worked for that city. And the north part of the Gulf of Mexico, they get hurricanes a lot more frequently than it. Plus the wave action is more. That city spends $1 million a year putting sand on the beach, and then they wait for the Corps to do the bigger projects. Like they do 3 or 4 years, a decade ago, after a hurricane up there, Representative Corps was openly said, we want out of the sand business. So I don't think this is by accident. I think this, somebody at some level made a decision that they're tired of fooling with it, and I think this whole easement thing that they came up with, because for decades they didn't require that. I think and this is just my opinion, I think they've come up with that just to say like, we don't want to fool with this anymore. So I think that's part of the bigger plan. But either way, the Corps would still be involved in permits to pump sand.
So Joe and I shouldn't start a GoFundMe?
Not for that.
Okay.
And again, Cookie, I want to acknowledge everything you've done for the beach renourishment, and Greg too. Again, and I listen to everybody, and I don't necessarily approve or disapprove of the way some people are handling this. I don't necessarily approve of it. But again, it's exploration, and kind of what I'm seeing is a government stall. And I didn't know if a city issuing, and I don't even know if this is an appropriate thing, I didn't know if the city issuing a state of emergency for our beaches would help that, because I'm going to quote you, Randy, I'm sorry. There are 2 courts. One is a court of law, which obviously we're dealing now with, and another is a court of public opinion. Do we need to make this aware through the court of public opinion that we need help and it's stalling? We've done the political side. I'm proposing a question. And again, Denise, I appreciate it, because this is what I'm asking for, is kind of an open discussion, because we don't have the ability to do this among ourselves.
Right.
11 coastal communities in Florida have been denied renourishment, okay? That being said, there are still some things that are being worked on behind the scenes at the county level. And so, because we don't have any answers to some of the things that we're working on, at this time, it's a wait game. And what I would prefer to do at this time is to give it a little bit more time. And I know that's a terrible thing to say because some of the things that I'm gonna talk about today have to do with the beach. People putting tents in the natural vegetation that we have, which is totally inappropriate. Putting tents and things where the sea turtles are. And the reason they're doing that is because there's not sand for them to put their paraphernalia, whatever, when they go to the beach. So, believe me, I am frustrated. And in one sense, I don't take it personal because I know where it's coming from, and I know in my heart, and I believe the city knows that I am working very, very hard on our behalf. And we are trying to look at all sides. We are trying to keep an open conversation with the Corps, because in the beginning, we have always had a very decent relationship with the Corps, which is highly unusual. And we know that in Jacksonville, that the staff in Jacksonville wants us to have the renourishment. And that's where that's how the waiver was an idea, okay? So I don't really want to get into particulars more than that, but I do want you to know that, if you were considering a state of emergency, which I don't think is a terrible idea, you have 11 other coastal places in Florida that are dealing with the same thing, and Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel, who are in much worse shape than we are one of them. So, if after the hurricane, they haven't given it to them. But I just, I never give up trying, and we're not going to give up hope on this. And we do have, I would say there are a few things that are still in, regardless of what has been said about the county commission. I totally disagree with that. I was in the room, and your county commission was unbelievable with all of the representatives we saw with the White House. And it's not over. There is also there's a couple other sides going on. So there are things that are happening that are not out there. And I think that we almost don't have a choice, that we have to wait, okay? And the beach mayors is a whole another avenue that they're working on, okay? So let us all keep working on it. I will tell you, it's one of the top agenda issues for the county. So they're well aware of it, and they know that, based on safety, based on tourism, that it's one of the major pieces that we need, because we're a coastal community. Yes.
Just, if I could just tip one.
And a county, coastal county.
There was an email, and I'll put y'all a copy on it if you want. I'll roll it over tomorrow. The county administrator is going to, there's like the Florida League of Cities, there's like a county organization, and I can't think of the name of it right now. He's sent a very similar email to all the coastal county managers, because as Cookie said, this is a growing problem, just not for us, but for others. And at that meeting, they're convening a meeting to get all those county administrators together to put their heads together. So I won't say that. But the second thing is, for those that continue to say not do anything, need to do more, it would be, I would welcome, I would think the commission would welcome if the people that have ideas would send those and send specifics. Do not send us an email and say you're not doing enough, but send what you think we've not done and send that to us. That would be helpful, because it'd be interesting to see what we really get. So I do want you to know the county administrator, if you didn't get it, I don't know if y'all got that. I'll roll that over tomorrow so you'll see that. That's another effort. But just call the public and those that believe our city, the county, to send us specific ideas of what we're missing, because I would be interested to see what that list is.
And I would agree with that. I think that's really what I'm seeking for. I'm seeking for outside of the box solutions and ways we can do that. Because Cookie, I follow you. Once you get something in your mind, you're going to go forward and you're going to do it, and I know that. And just want to make sure that it's going forward. And of course, you probably know much more than I do about this, and I would appreciate that email, Greg. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Denise?
My only announcement this evening is that, I don't know if all of you have heard, Preston Smith that ran for commissioner, his wife passed away in May, and they are having memorial service for her on Saturday morning at 10:30 at the 24th Beach Access. So
Next Saturday, not this Saturday.
it's the 17th.
It changed.
Oh, it's the 22nd now?
Yeah, 20.
Okay,
So 24th.
24th, okay. On the 24th. At 24th,
At what time?
10:30.
Denise, I did want to ask you and Lan, both of you went to the fire.
The Fire Ops 101.
Yes.
Yes. What, did you like that?
I absolutely enjoyed it. I took a little bit of time standing in the boots and the jacket and the pants in 100-degree weather, sweating along beside them, and understood what it was to
It
work
was
in
an
their
eye
shoes.
opener for sure.
It is
Yeah,
hot.
Yeah.
Stood in a completely dark building with a small screen full of smoke, trying to understand it as well. And came back with a huge appreciation of our fire department, everything they're doing, and a sense of pride for our fire department as well. Because they do a lot for us, they do a lot for our community, and an immense amount of respect.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of equipment they have to have just to cut open cars, and actually, I watched them cut open a car, you know, the gals that took out the 9th Avenue crosswalk, that was right outside my bedroom window, so I got to hear them, I got to see them climb out the sunroof and giggle, and I think they were a little inebriated when they did that, because their car landed on their side when they took out both palm trees, and they just wiped that out, because people have come to me and said, hey, what happened to the 9th Avenue, you know, crosswalk? Did you guys decide to redo that? No, it was redone for us with an SUV, so.
Did you have to put the outfit on?
No, I did not have to put the outfit on.
Okay.
But I did, you know, you really get to participate pretty much in everything anyway. So, but yeah, I just thought it was fascinating. And even like EMTs, how quickly, you know, you watch the medical TV shows and they're like, hey, if you found a vein, it's like they don't go for veins anymore. They have a drill. They drill right into your shoulder. It's like, wow. It's very fast.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yeah, just a couple things. I'm first going to start with a little HOA news. As of tonight's meeting, we'll say, I've been advised that the HOA has officially changed their name to Hire Me Home. Their new tagline is going to be good people doing great things. Basically, they found this to be a little more reflective of basically who the organization is, and that they're inclusive of not just folks in Indian Rocks Beach, because honestly the volunteers come from all the beaches north of us, south of us, across the bridge, Bel Air, Largo, New York, you know, the folks that participate in that organization. I do apologize for that. So they are, they're working on a few things. They're sorry, told that guy I was going to be in a meeting tonight. So they are working on a few things, obviously, to get things forward. And the next Mix and Mingle, I do apologize, 75 text, is going to be at Hurricane Eddie's on the 22nd of June. As far as they're concerned, yeah, so big changes over there at the HOA, having fun and so forth. Just a couple, or one little city note. I do agree with Lan. no matter what the vehicle or who communicated. It's the first and most asked question I get. We all talk about short-term rentals in here. Everybody on the street is not concerned with short-term rentals, is concerned about our beach and what we are doing about it. And this commission is the first people they look to. I've been on this commission for 3 years. Besides snippets of information, I don't really remember being in a workshop or anything like that. I've been up here a bit, so I may have forgotten. Maybe communication's the key. Maybe you both, Cookie and Greg, both just rolled out quite a few things that are happening or not happening. And I just think the people, residents, all residents of Indian Rocks, have that question. Because honestly, no, at least in my humble opinion, I haven't seen anything move in 3 years. At least for me, things are working, and I know government's slow, right? And I don't have the solution. But I am of the opinion, like land, if the court tells us to literally pound sand, what are our options? We're a barrier island, right? Even when they did renourishment, it was normally gone in 6 months due to the next storm. I'm very concerned for my house, everybody's house. That's our one level of protection that we have. So we can talk about short-term rentals, this, that, and the other, and a lot of things we talk about up here, but honestly, if that beach leaves, it changes all of our lives. So maybe just better communication, if that's maybe a start. If we don't want a workshop, maybe at least figure out a path to generally tell the public what's going on. I think that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Just gonna quickly, as we were talking about the beach, I want to remind people and make sure that maybe Jeff can put this in. Dogs are not allowed on the beach. We have tents. People are putting tents up. They're putting it in our natural vegetation. That is not allowed. If you put a hole in the beach, you need to cover it up. Your trash needs to go in the trash cans. Do want to acknowledge that Deanne was with us for 31 years and that she has retired. Again, mention Flag Day tomorrow. Starts at, he said 11, but it's actually more like 11:30. Very nice ceremony. And I want to let the commission know that the Barrier Island Governmental Council meeting will be in Indian Rocks Beach the last Wednesday of this month, which is June 28th. It starts at 8:30. The public is invited, and there will be a light breakfast, and it usually lasts till 10 a.m. In case anybody would like to come, it'll be in Indian Rocks Beach this month. That being said, we'll move on to, does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay. We'll move on to additions and deletions. Are there any additions or deletions for tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would you please read the consent agenda, Randy?
Yes, one moment, Madam Mayor, we've lost the document. One moment. Apologies.
No problem.
Madam Mayor, there are 3 items on the consent agenda with subparts. Item A, approval of the April 11, 2023 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item B, reappointments to the Planning and Zoning Board, reappointing 1, Adrian Dosses. Item number 2, reappointing Scott Holmes. Number 3, reappointing Frederick Rick McFall. Item 4, reappointing Arb Sylvester. And item 5, reappointing Myra Warman. Item C on the consent agenda is the proclamation of LGBTQ Pride Month. These are the 3 items with subparts on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And is there a motion for the consent?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I have a request if I can.
Yes.
Since this is, to my knowledge, my first proclamation, is there a way to pull item 5C from the consent agenda so we can have further discussion on that proclamation?
Is there anybody who would like to pull the item C, the proclamation?
As a matter of parliamentary procedure.
Do you have to make a motion?
No, if one member opts to pull the item from the consent agenda as requested.
Okay. Yes, we will go ahead then and we'll do the consent agenda for A and B. And is there a motion for the consent agenda A and B?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Lauren, motion carries. Okay. We'll move now to the proclamation, the LGBTQ Pride Month. Commissioner?
Sure. And I just, like I say, I think this is my first proclamation as I've been sitting up here. So I just had some questions and some inquiries on kind of how this happens and kind of what it entails for the city. It's basically, I just got a quick phone call from the city clerk and that was it regarding this proclamation. So basically I contacted the city, kind of asking what, basically is there a policy regarding proclamations? Do we have? I found there were none. So I basically, asked if there was a process for someone to request a proclamation. We don't have any. And I asked what kind of criteria, basically, or what criteria does it take to become a proclamation for the city? And really, what are the city's responsibilities going forward? Were kind of the questions in my mind, right? So I kind of look back a little bit, to kind of see. I actually found out we actually have 10 proclamations from the city that we've made since 2004. Majority, I think 7 of those are city related, city government related. I have the list where the city can provide it. The last 3 that have been around my tenure, I think starting in 2019, I think Cookie, I was there when you did this, was for Hands Across the Sand, which is fantastic. The Plumleys had been doing that for 10 plus years for that proclamation when we recognized them for bringing awareness to oil rigs off our coast, right, which none of us wanted. They still hold that event to today. The other in 2019 was Action 2000. Obviously, they are an integral part of our community, work with our city. Obviously provided, countless volunteer hours. And then just in 2020, was again, Cookie, thank you for recognizing the IRB HOA for all of their contributions to the, and again, I think they've been around since 1970. So these all seem to have city-related direct ties. So I'd just like to discuss kind of, should we have a policy? What does that look like? What criteria do we follow? Or is it just freelance? And, I can't figure out a way of determination, I guess.
I think that would be a good idea to have a criteria we could investigate some other cities and what they do. I have no problem with that. One that you were here for that you did not mention that we did that had roots that were here but also outside of our community was the autism. We did the autism awareness. We do have a young family
Yep, you're right.
in Indian Rocks Beach. However, that being said, we were told that we're only the second of its kind in this county, and now that was as of when we did the first one for the autism awareness, and that obviously is, goes throughout the cities, it goes through the county, there, and so that,
Yeah.
I did
Right.
bring that
I do
one.
remember that.
And you were here when we did that one. So, I don't have a problem in the future if we look up and see if we can put together, some criteria. Normally, a resident has come before the commission, in my experience, or we ourselves have found, for instance, when we did the one with Action 2000 or the homeowners, we decided to do it for them, because the good that they had done for the community. So, I mean, we have gone both ways with that. We have, had individuals that have come forward and made a comment about something that they would like, but we've also had, where we ourselves have made that decision. But, I don't think that's a bad idea in the future to have, look at some other cities and see if they have a criteria available. I don't know if any do, but, and I don't have a problem with that in the future. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Sure, I mean, we may as well have a process. I mean, in this case, it was something that was brought to the commission,
Yes.
just like be in any other situation. So. But, if it could be codified in some way, that'd be great.
Yes.
So what is a proclamation other than a public announcement? Is it I looked it up, proclamation, a public announcement, especially one dealing with a matter of great importance. And then it quotes, Eisenhower signed a proclamation admitting Alaska to the Union. So I get government, I get that. Is it an acknowledgement? Is it the committee recognizing something?
Yes,
The
let's say
commission recognizing
acknowledgement
something?
and recognition. Greg, do you have anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, there's two things that local governments usually will pass or recognize organizations. One can be a resolution, or one can be a proclamation, and there's some differences in those. The other cities I work for, I think all the other cities I work for, had a adopted procedure where somebody could make a request, fill out a form, and just some general guidelines. And that's probably not a bad idea, because in the world that we live in now, it's probably a good idea to have a process. This is put it that way. So, and I think that Joe called me about the other day, and I actually randomly pulled some samples, but it's something we can work on and give you all two or three options, and y'all can look at it and decide how you want to be. At least there's there's an official process that people, it doesn't have to be overly bureaucratic. It can be pretty simple, but at least it'll be a process that the five of y'all approve, and then going forward, if somebody wants a proclamation or a resolution, then that can work its way through the food chain and to the commission.
To the extent there's been you're asking what's the difference between a proclamation and an ordinance resolution. Chapter 166 of the Florida statutes governs municipal powers, and 166, I'm trying to remember the provision. I want to say it's 166.041. Yeah, 166.041 governs the adoption of ordinances and resolutions. Proclamations don't appear there. That doesn't mean they're ultra vires. You have only powers. You have the ability to adopt proclamations. Communities do it all the time. There's not some clear legal definition at the statutory level, because they are, as the name suggests, a proclamation, a public statement. You know, proclamations happen for everything from Sea Turtles Week to Let's Stop Smoking to whatever you wish to make a proclamation of, acknowledging the history of an elementary school in your community, whatever it is that you as a legislative body wish to publicly recognize and announce your recognition of. If you're searching for a definition from the Florida statutes, you're not likely to find one specific to municipal powers. It's more of a function of a more ceremonial action by a city.
And I like to throw into this really quickly too, that of course virtually all federal agencies, departments, offices recognize not just Pride Month, but a whole slew of different months. I think specifically 9 or 10 out of the 12 months are taken by ones that the federal government recognizes, among them African American, women's, Asian American, Hispanic, Native American, and sometimes national disabilities included in October. So like, this is pretty standard throughout government, you know, and it's not shaking any trees, you know.
But I guess that's one of my questions, right? So if we adopt one, we should adopt them all.
Sure, let's do it.
Right? I mean, if you're gonna follow just a federal outline, then that's it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that was
We
my
can go
question.
one at a time too.
Right,
I
so
mean,
you-
like you said, we've only had since 2019, 3. I mean, it's not like we get them all the time.
right, but this, besides, which you brought up, the autism awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, my concern was, yes, we did have one person request for this proclamation. It was a quick poll. There wasn't any discussion on it. And then, so what stops? Or what procedure do we have for the next one?
Well, I think this is the discussion.
Yeah,
Right?
I think
What
we
besides
should
the
get a
procedure?
procedure put in place.
But you know what I'm saying? So what, as Greg said, in this society, so the next person comes
Yes.
up next, right?
I mean, I
If
think
the
in
last-
the
I
absence of
think
a,
it's a good idea.
Right.
Actually, Joe, I do.
I
To have some kind of a
You know,
process.
man, logic and actually procedure.
I'm all about process. I think it's great, let's do it. But in the absence of a current process, we still have to decide what we're going to do this June.
Yeah.
So, all about process. So, I mean, we can just sort of start with that as the first.
Denise, any comments or your?
Well, I think to take advantage of June, which is the month we need to have this proclamation in, the process has to go, and we approve this proclamation.
It's
already
already
June 13th.
Shall we take a consensus? Would that be Randy?
About which specifically?
Thank you. So the question becomes, what are you taking consensus on? If your consensus is to have a discussion or request that staff present you with a proposed policy or something along those lines, then yes. If you're talking about the resolution, we've not yet arrived at a motion on the resolution or second. So no, I wouldn't suggest you do a consensus on the resolution. It sounds like your discussion thus far has been about a forward-looking establishment of a policy, in which case I would suggest you either say whether you're having a consensus to discuss it more or for staff to present you with an option, or what it is you're requesting to happen at that future time.
Yes, sir.
I don't know the difference. I'm still trying to figure out proclamation and some of this. What if I were to say I would like to recognize our valuable citizens and that are a part of the LGBTQ Pride Month, and I would like to recognize them at this meeting and thank them for what they do to contribute to our community and what they do to support and are a valued part of Indian Rock Beach. Could I say that?
Yes, you can, and that was.
Could I ask for a
Would that
consensus
be
on
in
that?
addition to the proclamation, or we still need to hammer out this proclamation business?
Well, why don't we, can we do a consensus to have Greg come back at a later time, wording or that was used for proclamations? I mean, we can do that. Is that, are we agreeing with that?
Madam Mayor,
We're going to use the process to
A separate issue.
Madam Mayor, for future proclamations, I'd like to suggest that we offer a system that we can start working under.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
future proclamation.
Future proclamation, okay, we're done with one article. Is there anyone who would, show me, go forward with the proclamation for the LGBTQ, is there a motion?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation for the LGBTQ pipeline.
Okay, second, okay, all in favor?
Madam Mayor, now that we've pulled for the consent agenda, we're taking official act, I would recommend. we go on.
Okay. Does anyone have any further comments before I go out? Hearing none, I'd like to open the public comments. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item, please?
Hi, I'm Diane Daniel, 309 10th Avenue. I forgot there's public comment here, so did not think about speaking at all. Thank you for your support. I'm the person who brought this up. I have to wonder if there was so much discussion about autism awareness. I'm sort of blown away that I feel like it's a pushback because of the topic, maybe it's not. That said, I am also a process person, so I think it's great that in the future there's a process. I would like to see the resolution proclamation, not just for people in the community who identify as LGBTQ, but for everyone who supports a community that is basically under assault and attack, and people want to erase people like me and many others. So I think it's an important topic. I think it's especially important this year. I feel that most people do support it. So I thank you for your support, and I hope that this is the beginning of something that continues. And one day, maybe we'll see the rainbow flag and neon lights at City Hall. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come up to this one? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. We have a motion and a second. Is there any comments from the neighbor or the second?
I don't want to talk about proclamations anymore.
Okay, with that, please call the roll. Lauren. Yes.
Commissioner Hall?
No.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Vaughn? Mayor King?
Yes.
Stands approved, Madam Mayor.
And with that, we will move on to public hearings. We have none. There were 7 other legislative matters. Is our resolution number 2023-05 vacation rental fees. Randy, please read the resolution.
This is a resolution of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, establishing a fee schedule for the registration and inspection of vacation rentals and providing for an effective date. This is the reading of resolution number 2023-02 by title only, and will only be one reading.
Thank you. And with that, Greg, please present.
This is what you discussed and approved at the last meeting, and we will start to get out into the resolution together. The annual registration, please per the condition of this draft, is $300 a year. The initial inspection is $150, and if the credit enforcement officer, in our case, has to get back, it's $75, we can get back. So it's $300, $150, and $75.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions about these? To Greg, we have gone over it several times, but it's always a good idea. Do you have any questions?
Does it start like at the next renewal and with new registrations, when does this system?
It will start when we initiate the ordinance. That's what I mentioned earlier. The
schedule shall take effect immediately upon adoption or on, and then that we struck it in light of the update, beginning of this meeting should be on August 1st, 2023, to establish clarity on that issue. That would be consistent with the rollout of the administrative program. So the one placeholder on this ordinance, with the commission's consensus approval, would be August 1, 2023, before it is voted on.
Rick, while we're talking about it, I want to make this crystal clear because we've got several emails, everybody's got emails about the time. So you also mentioned July 15th. What was that? Again, just so that we make sure that we're clear on that, that we were going to, on July 15th.
The ordinance the commission adopted unanimous, in 2 days, it had section 18-204, and had in there that the initial dates that were set were that the forms would be published by June 16th, this is Friday, and that the ordinance would be effective July 3rd. That second paragraph also said that if the material of the form, we were not in a position to do that, as the city manager may extend. And that's what came out of the meeting today, was to extend the new dates, and all this we put on the website, even though it's go out, is that the published forms that will be available to the public will be on or before July 14th. And the effective date of the ordinance will be August 1st.
Okay, so the published forms will be July 14th, and then the ordinance will be August 1st, 2023. Now, you mentioned that there would be emails going out to the 400 plus that we have. That does not include the golf site, is that correct? Okay. So they will find their information from the website. Okay, all right. So anyone who's on the golf, in the commercial tourist district will find their information on the website. So that-
And the information that we put out, because there's going to be a learning period of this. And there'll be information put in the press release, the information that we put out of who within the city hall to contact for questions. And we will answer every question that anybody has. That's the rollout period. But one thing I would stress based on some emails that I've seen, and I get it, you try to read the ordinance, always have a worst case scenario. We're gonna work with people, and as long as somebody's actively in the process, just because we have an August 1st date, August 10th, we're not gonna have to hammer anybody about turning in. There's gonna be a period of time when the transition fully into this. For example, the proposed budget that I'm finishing up with the department heads, including Dan Carpenter, the host compliance company that you all had already previously approved of the year, and the contract company did the new budget. So there'll be a period of time where the different phases of what we're really doing is going to be phased in over a 3-4 month period of time. But we have to start somewhere, and we'll start with those correctly to about 400 that we have. And there's actually about 300 in the CT that have the traditional business license. So we actually have that contact information. So all the people that get information on, we just have to do a direct notice. And then the forms and the 2 dates with the contact information will be placed on the website. Our folks internally can answer questions about process and what's required, and we'll make that simple.
Is everyone clear? Is everybody in the audience clear? Okay, so we have to find your information. What we're going to do is I'll open a public comment in a second, and then
vacation rental platform. And, you know, one number was 1,200 total in the city and one was 1,400. So that's one thing we'll talk about in the budget process. I'm not gonna, in my proposed budget, I'm not gonna fully account for all the revenues for vacation rentals until we get through several months of it. But it's gonna take some time. It's a large number. We've known for a long time, particularly in the CT district, that people that should have always had the $10 business tax procedure did not have a business license. A lot of people don't have that. So we know that there's a lot sitting over there. So it's gonna take a few months to kind of flush all that out. And that's why I said it's kind of a multi-step phase process, because we'll kick all this off in the summer and fully implement our part of it, and we'll bring the husband to life, which is the time to go on that well, but then we decide to get the ones that we have now, registered under the ordinance. And then we can start working on the ones that are that are not registered with us, and then we can work in the process. It's gonna take so much. I will tell you that Zona, they publicly acknowledge a lot of the vacation rental operators we've dealt with. The ones that we inspected months ago, well, 3-4 months ago, that had particularly FEMA issues, that all received letters from the city. Those are all actively working with the city to resolve them. And that's what my experience has been in my career, is that 99% of the people that you work with, or maybe 95% of the people that you work with on code enforcement issues, or the implementation of the ordinance, they're gonna work with you. It's just the few that don't, and that's why we have a magistrate, that if we get stuck with somebody on a particular thing, we can resolve it that way with a neutral party.
But we'll find the ones in the shadows.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner McCall, any questions on these, or?
Go, ma'am.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, you gotta-
And just ask that whoever makes the motion, make the motion with the
August.
requested revision of the effective date of August 1, 2023 for the effective date. Oh, yeah, you still have to go to public for sure. I mean, you could do-
Any other
you could do
questions
motion
before I go
that.
out to the public? Is everybody good? At this time, I'd like to open the public comment. If there's anyone who would like to speak on this agenda item, please come forward.
I'm just curious, I know right now it's speculation, and I'm sure Greg's done his best to understand the cost of this registration and enforcement and all of the paperwork and recording that goes along with it, but is that subject to change because of the way you're doing this now? Is subject to change if we find out that we are not covering our costs? I guess you can't answer me, huh?
Yes,
Give an answer?
yes,
Resolutions can always be amended.
yes.
Right, because it's a resolution, that's
Yes.
what I thought, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to look at it a year from now when you really know your costs and see where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Ray. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time?
Diane Daniel, 309 10th Avenue. I have one suggestion and one question that I guess you can't answer, but I'll just say it. The suggestion is that even though you're not ready to put things on the website yet, that you put something on the website, just even saying you're not ready, just so that everyone can direct people, like, here's the latest.
That's what we're doing.
Okay, great. That was easy. The question, I've heard various things on this, and I'm not sure, is whether the part of the IRB ordinance includes the Suncoast Fire and Rescue inspection. Like, if you must have that inspection before you get the IRB one.
Are we gonna
You
turn
can
this into
No, this will be the last.
but I'll answer it.
Yes,
Out of
answer
courtesy to the fire district, the discussions I've had with the fire chief is, and we'll tell people when they turn in their paperwork, when they turn in their paperwork to us, is out of courtesy to the fire district, we're not gonna issue our certificate until they're ready to go.
Okay.
Because it would be unfair for us to do it, because if I issue a certificate, then the person I'm giving that to is gonna think everything's okay, then if the fire department gets in, they're gonna put, we need a fire extinguisher, and they're gonna say, well, why did the city tell you it was okay? So there's gonna be communication with the fire district, because as we mentioned before, and this always won't work out like this, there's gonna be an effort that when somebody files the paperwork, that a code enforcement officer and a fire inspector go at the same time, but we're not doing multiple inspections at a property. That may not always work out, but that's our goal, is to try to do that.
So I've actually been working with Assistant Chief Doug Higley on the language. He has like a checklist, and I'm helping him write it for dummies who don't understand all the various terms. I'm saying like use exit instead of egress sort of thing. And in their code, in their checklist, it says that there's a year-long grace period. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because I specifically asked him, are you really giving a year-long grace period? So it's just something I'm mentioning that should be coordinated if one is going hand in hand with the other. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this agenda item?
Beth McMullen, 481 Harbor Drive South, and I think mine is more of a question too. If someone purchases a home, and it's a larger home, before this ordinance hits on the 1st, the occupancy is going to still be 12 for a 2-year grace period. And the second part of that is, let's say they purchased it after August 1st, when the ordinance takes effect, and it's still a much larger home. Is there a grace period for that occupancy as well, or will it be 10 at that point?
Greg, you want to answer that? Because they're going to call you if...
I can answer that to say that
Okay.
every application is going to have to be taken on the merits of the specifics, and taking 3 and 4 hypotheticals in a public meeting without all the details is difficult to answer. The analysis that contemplates the exception contemplated in the ordinance is based on whether the property, not the date of purchase, but principally whether the property is already lawfully operating as a short-term rental. So simply purchasing something today, tomorrow, or in a month from now doesn't vest some kind of right. It's going to have to be taken on the record of that particular property, and timing will factor in terms of which process they're going through. But that's what's going to inform it. And so we're not in a public meeting prepared to say, yes, the property at 456 Gulf Boulevard can do this, or 789 can't. But in a broader sense, you're looking at the language of the ordinance. The language of the ordinance is contemplated based on previous valid operation of a short-term rental.
So they may not be operating a short-term rental, but they've gotten their BTR. That would be considered that they are in the process, and they would probably be approved for the higher occupancy.
I'm going to leave you very dissatisfied by saying,
Okay.
yes, those factors would inform the analysis.
Okay. I'm not getting a straight answer from anybody,
Well,
but I get it.
since we varied from our operating rules, we just said this. Under the current ordinance that we're operating under, you're not gonna get a BTR license unless you comply with the current ordinance. So the answer, I think your question is no. You don't, those are not separate things. Even with the current ordinance, you have to comply with the terms of the ordinance. So those go hand in hand. Those are not separate. Is that, I hope I answered your question.
It's a specific house I'm talking about that happens to be at the end of the cul-de-sac at Harbor Drive South.
I'd rather deal with you, I'd rather have a conversation with you
Okay.
about that. So-
Okay.
Okay.
That's
All right.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Beth.
Hello, my name's Dennis Weifel, and I represent 11 owners at 1510 Gulf Boulevard. I have a question. You gave 3 fee schedules, 3 different fee schedules, and I couldn't hear you. What are those 3 fee schedules, and how do they apply? You said 300, 150, and 75.
Yes. Go ahead and tell them, Greg.
Per the direction of the commission, there's an annual $300 registration fee. There's also a required inspection. So when we come out and make an inspection, the first trip is $150. if for some reason we go out and we have a checklist too, just like the fire department has. We come out and you're missing, like there's an interior posting required, and we have to come back to verify that you have it, you'd be charged an additional inspection fee for them to come back and verify that. So it's 300, 150, and 75.
So is the 300 an annual fee?
Yes.
Okay. Now, other municipalities along here, they have a $5 or $10 a year fee. So the 300 is a little on the high side, I think. But it's the cost of doing business, I understand. So I'm just bringing that point up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you
Okay.
very much for coming forward. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward before we close the public comment? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment. I'm looking for a motion. Denise said that you would like to make a motion.
I would like to make the motion. I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05, vacation rental fees.
And you would like to add revision of the date.
And I would like to add the revision of the date to
August 1st.
August 1st, 2023, and that the forms will come out July 14th,
Yes.
2023.
The form's coming out is not in the resolution, it's just the effective date of the fee schedule.
I did it wrong.
You did perfect. Is there a second?
And I will second it, which is easier than what you did.
Is there any comments from the maker?
I've got a comment. Since it was just brought up,
Okay.
and we varied from the rules,
Yes, sir.
we clear this up too.
Okay.
The reason why you may see a fee of $5, $10, that's a business tax receipt license. Cities that have adopted separate vacation rental ordinances have different, they have fees for that. So that's different. Some cities don't have vacation rental ordinances, or they don't have a registration fee. So that's why there's a difference.
Okay.
And we talked about that for 6 months during the process.
Yes, yeah, I realize that. Okay. Denise, any comments from the maker of the motion?
I do not have any comments.
Lance, any comments?
No comments.
Okay. Anyone else on the commission have any comments before we go to roll call? Hearing
Well-
none? Okay, Jude. Jude, you may talk.
No, I was kidding.
Okay. Lauren, would you like to call the roll? And you cannot say no.
That was no funny. Commissioner Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bond,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, other business. And to the best of my knowledge, we do not have any other business to come before this board. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming tonight and have a wonderful 4th of July.
Father's Day.
And Father's Day.